Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome to all of you from Manhattan Meditation Center, Brahma Kumaris. Hope all of you are doing very well. This is our another Thursday. Well, I would like to call it as a get together than talk or anything. And I do see some of you have turned on your video, so thank you for that. It's very nice to see you. And those of you who are hiding behind camera, there you go. Hello. Feel free to turn on your cameras because this is really like a nice get together. And my name is Shweta. I am a student of spirituality, Raja Yoga meditation at Brahma Kumaris, and I am here located in New Jersey. And I was thinking, those of you who join pretty much every Thursday, and those of you, some of you are new or first time joiners, it would be nice to hear from you. Where are you joining us from? So can you put your location in a chat window, where you are joining from? State or country, if it is not United States. Okay, New Jersey, Los Angeles. Wow, Catskill, New York. Wow, Catskill, New York. You're closer to our Peace Village Retreat Center. And that's where our dear speaker, Judy, she is located. Okay, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Chicago, Miami. Wow, Connecticut. That's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. It gives a very good feeling, right? Even if everyone is physically located so far, thanks to technology, we just feel that we are in a one same room and together here. So today, our talk is the riddle of love and detachment. Such a wonderful topic, right? I didn't even try to reflect on it because I'm very much curious to listen to our dear speaker, Judy Rogers. And just to let you know, before that, one of you were asking me that where can we find these lectures? So, well, these sharings, lectures, talk, whatever you want to call it as, they are available on our YouTube and Facebook channel, and you can easily get to that from our website. What I'm gonna do is, in a short while, I'll just put our website in a chat window so you can save it on the website. You can also find our regular events. There are everyday meditations. Thursday talk is every Thursday. That's why we call it as Thursday talk. And there is also one 2 days meditation course that is coming up on June 25th and 26th. So feel free to look at our website. Those of you who are visiting our website regularly, you would find that it's a new look and new design. Yes, we have upgraded the website very recently. So hopefully it's a bit more easy for you to find events now. All right, now Judy Rogers, our speaker. I know you are waiting to hear from her, and she is a student, a teacher at Brahma Kumaris for more than 25 years. And she's very lovely, and I like the way she shared from her experiences, and very practical. So, and we lovingly call her Sister Judy. Sister Judy, very warm welcome. I'm gonna spotlight you in a second. All right.
So, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be with you for this chat. As Shweta said, it's always nicer to see your faces. I mean, I can talk to your names, and I often do talk to your names. Thank you, Sony. But it's a lot easier to talk to you when I can see you. So if you're so inclined, thank you, Zulma. It's nice to see who you are. I see some good friends And tonight's topic, I think it's a bit of a challenge for most people. So I'll go slow and you tell me, I'll leave some time at the end. If you're feeling urgent in the middle, you interrupt me. Because this idea, and we've got some sound. You're taking care of that. So if you would be so kind as to mute when you're not speaking, and that way everyone can hear. Okay, so it's a pretty famous concept in the world of spiritual wisdom that the only true love comes from the state of detachment. So the phrase is detached and loving. Now, detached in English is a pretty hard word, isn't it? I mean, it's not, it sounds like you're leaving, right? But it doesn't really mean that. So what it means is it means that you are loving without any pulling on the other one. Okay, so it's sort of, you can think of it as unattached or untouched or whatever. And I'll try to demystify it a little bit. But even when you understand the concept, it's really counterintuitive, isn't it? Because when we love someone, we kind of want to feel real connected with them, don't we? You know, I mean, if you love your child, your grandchild, your brother, your whatever, you kind of have this tendency to just want to hold them and hug them and have them close to you. And that feels like what love is. It feels like what people are talking about when they talk about love. However, you know that these evenings are about spiritual concepts, right? You didn't come here because we were going to give you the psychology of romance. You know that, right? If that's why you came, you know it's time to leave. But if you're here because you're on a spiritual path, then let's think about this a little bit. So this issue comes up in relationship, right? Love comes up in the context of relationship. And in spiritual terms, we tend to talk about spiritual love and physical love. So physical love is, we feel very connected with them. And there is often a little bit of, you do this for me and I do this for you. It's very subtle, right? I bring you this nice dinner because you're sick and you say thank you. Or I pick you up because you need a ride someplace, and then next week I want you to pick me up and take me someplace. This is kind of the way we think. It's very subtle, but it's sort of an understanding among friends. I'll help you, you help me, right? That's sort of the way we think about love and friendship. With spiritual love is actually what all of us really, really want. Because what spiritual love is, it's for one thing, the vision of the one who loves you. They see you as beautiful. They see what's lovely about you. They don't see your faults. They don't see all the mistakes you're making, or even if they see them, they don't see them as fundamental to you. There is you, and then there's whatever you do. You may make some mistakes, but they look at you and they see what's beautiful in you, and they see what's special in you. Also, with spiritual love, it is uninterrupted love that doesn't expect anything back. So I bring you soup because I have the ability to bring you soup and I love you. And if you don't say thank you, or if you're feeling cranky, or if you hate the soup I made, oh well, I'll bring you a different soup tomorrow, right? I give you a ride because I have a car and you need a ride and I love you. And if the next week I need a ride and you don't have a car or a way, that's all right. I'll find another way. Right? It's a subtle shift here I'm talking about. This spiritual love is a flow of love to the other one that sees their beauty and doesn't expect anything back, and isn't even a little bit disappointed in what the other one does. In other words, the other one cannot do anything that would disappoint you. This is what detached means, right? You're loving to them. You have a big well of love, and you're loving to them. And no matter how they behave or what they do, you still love them. Okay? So, physical love, spiritual love. Now, another spiritual concept is karmic accounts and karmic bondages. Are you familiar with these terms? So, karma, the word karma means action. That's really all it means, is action. But when we take an action, depending on our intention in taking the action and on the feelings with which we act, we will create some kind of a reaction, some kind of a response. So if my intention in coming to bring you that bowl of soup is that, I kind of owe you this, and you did something nice for me before, or your mother did something nice for me once, so I'm going to do this nice thing for you, right? Seems clean enough, but actually it's a lesser motive, right? I'm coming to bring you this soup, but there's a little bit of an agenda in there somewhere. I'm not just bringing you the soup. And so if I have that intention and I deliver it to you, I'm happy that you like to bring it to you. But if you taste it and say, oh gosh, I don't eat cinnamon, and you put cinnamon in this soup, then I would get my feelings hurt. Well, I brought you this soup. I mean, just, get over this problem that you have with the cinnamon. So we create a karmic response when we have a lesser intention or we have a lesser feeling. That karmic response entangles us with that other soul. So just to unpack this a little further, so a soul is a vibrational being, right? Souls are energy. Souls are consciousness, conscious energy. And souls are always emitting vibrations, depending on the consciousness that's inside the soul. So a vibration of worry is different from a vibration of gratitude, different from a vibration of anger, different from a vibration of appreciation. Whatever consciousness the soul is in, the soul is creating a field around it with that vibrational quality. You know this already when you think about people you know, right? You probably know someone who is fearful a lot of the time, right? Afraid of whatever. Afraid of getting COVID, afraid of going into the public transportation, afraid of running out of money, afraid of whatever. For good reasons, right? I'm not saying the world is so safe, but what's in their mind is fear, or what's in their heart is fear. And so when you meet them, you experience the vibrational field that holds that consciousness. You experience them as being a little bit afraid, or a little bit angry, or a little bit worried, or whatever that the prevailing consciousness is of that soul. So when a soul has that kind of a field, when they connect with others, they're connecting with some kind of a desire. So if I have a feeling of a consciousness of worry, then I may be connecting with others in order to feel safe. I may be looking for a protector, for example. Or if I'm always angry, I may need somebody to vent on. So at first it may seem okay, but then my anger will find this outlet. Or if I am, if I need to be right, if I have this strong need to have the answers to everything, then I may look for someone who I think needs to be led around. So in other words, based on the consciousness, the prevailing inner state of the soul seeks out relationships and connections with a kind of an agenda, subtle agenda, right? To get their needs met. And so these relationships that we form are compromised in that way. They are based on reciprocal need. And so they're we call that a karmic bondage. Now, a karmic account just means that you've been with that person before. You have some history with this person. It's not a bad thing. You know, sometimes, don't you ever know you've met someone and you think, gosh, I already know this one. I could swear I've already been with this one. You know, I know we've met before because there's such a familiarity. So sometimes there's a soul who you've actually been with before, whether you remember it or not. And so there's some kind of a familiarity and some kind of a rapport and all of that. That would be a karmic account, possibly. But a karmic bondage robs you of your freedom and robs them of their freedom. So the relationship itself has this push-pull in it. So when we have a karmic bondage with somebody, we may keep trying to make them happy, but no matter what we do, they don't get happy. Does anyone know that kind of relationship? You keep trying to make them happy, and the more you try, they're still unhappy. They may be more unhappy the more you try. That's a karmic bondage. One of you tries to leave, the other one's in tears. So there's this push-pull with the karmic bondage. And so that's a kind of attachment. So the souls have between them some kind of an attachment, and the relationship they've formed is being driven off of need. Therefore, every action that the soul takes towards the other one is tainted, you might say, with this desire, right? So if I am fearful, then maybe I'm coming at you and I want you to keep reassuring me that you're going to care for me, or you're going to look out for me, or you're going to make sure I'm okay. Or if I'm feeling weak, not sure of myself, I want you to signal me that you're going to take care of me, that you're going to be the strong one. And then we have this agreement. You'll be the strong one. I'll be the weak one. Well, these things only work until the weak one decides they don't want to be weak anymore and they become strong. Now the relationship doesn't work, right? Because that was the transaction. You were to be the weak one, and this one was to be the strong one. So now you've said, well, I'm going to be strong now. And the other one says, wait a minute. I'm the strong one here. I make the decisions, right? You see how these tangles happen. So we end up in these very complicated relationships. We may think that they are love. And a lot of these happen with people close to us. So they happen with parents and children, they happen with siblings, they happen with our aging parents. They can happen with our landlords, our bosses. All these relationships can become quite complicated. And I don't know if you notice this, but sometimes you can say, okay, I'm not going to be with this boss anymore. I'm going to go find another job. So you quit that job, you go to get another job, you get a boss, and lo and behold, it's a replica of the last boss, right? Or boyfriend or landlord or whatever. And you think, how does this happen to me? This is the same kind of person I had last time. So how did that happen? Was it a big accident? No. When you showed up for that interview, you were signaling whatever that is in you, that unfinished business, that weakness, that fear, that whatever. And it's as if you're a puzzle. So if that boss said, oh, good, I'm always the powerful one, this one's weak, this will be perfect. I can be the strong one and he will be the weak one, or she. So we remake these compromised relationships over and over. And I think a lot of people have given up on the possibility that they could have real love, right? That I could really be happy in relationship. Because all your friends tell you their relationships are just as problematic. So you think, well, what's the point? What's the point? So, as Mickey says, how do you stop this from happening in the chat? Well, you stop it from happening because you change your side of the equation, right? You know from your spiritual work so far that you can't change anybody else, right? Is there anybody who's with us tonight who's ever changed anybody else? You can just put your hand up if you've ever successfully changed anybody, made them kinder, more understanding, more cooperative. Probably not, right? I mean, we can't change anybody else as much as we would like to. We can wish it for them. We all lecture them. We have little talks in our heads, what we're going to tell them, right? We're just going to say this next time, and they're going to brilliantly hear us, and then they will change, right? That doesn't happen. So we can't, that's not our, as they say in the UK, that's not our remit. We don't get to do that. We can't do that. We have one spiritual project, and that's us. And that's a full-time job. It is a full-time job to look inside and figure out what is going on in my heart and mind, and how am I going to change that so that my relationships are healthier. I'd go so far as to say tonight we're talking relationships, but if we were talking about money, what I would say is, how do I change myself so that I become prosperous? And if we were talking about health, I would say, how do we change ourselves so that we become healthy? Because it's the same formula. But tonight we're talking about relationships. So let's stick with the topic at hand. So we live in a time where everything has become weak. The soil is weak. It doesn't have enough nutrients to grow the crops. The water is polluted. I remember when the first time I realized the rest of my life we were going to have water in bottles, I was shocked that we were going to have to buy our water in bottles. The air, polluted. And it's not just what's going on in the physical, natural world. The souls themselves have become weak. So in our original state, the soul or the self is completely pure. In other words, has no negativity, has no weakness, is completely at peace, undisturbable, imperturbable, totally peaceful. Is completely loving. I mean, look at babies. What happens to us when we look at babies? We just want to kiss their faces off, right? Why do we want to do that? Why do we just pick them up and hold them and squeeze them and kiss them? Because they are so naturally loving. That's that soul shining through that little body. That's who each of us is in our original state. The soul is naturally joyful. The soul doesn't arrive with sorrow or anger or disappointment or worry. The soul is naturally joyful. And then over time, we connect with things and attach to things, and we lose that pure, full state. We become sometimes peaceful. We are peaceful, but we're only peaceful some of the time. We're sometimes loving. But then when someone's not loving to us, we get not loving back, right? We are sometimes happy, but then sometimes we're very unhappy. And so through this process, we become as impure as the sky and the soil and the water. And that's the state of the world right now. So how do we go? Because as long as we're weak in those ways, as long as we are not very peaceful, not very loving, not very joyful, then we are also not very powerful, right? Because what we're doing then, if I'm not peaceful, now I'm looking for peace. If I'm not loving, I'm looking for love. I want someone to make me full, someone to make me feel worthy. So I go around looking for that. If I'm not happy, I'm looking for someone to make me happy. And as I'm doing that search for someone to fill me, that's when I make these complicated connections with people. And then inevitably, the one who I thought was going to make me peaceful doesn't make me peaceful. I thought she was peaceful, but now it turns out she's just sleepy or lazy or something. Or I thought she was loving, but actually she's not really loving in that way. She actually wants a lot back, etc. So we're looking for love, as the song goes, in all the wrong places, and trying to get other human beings to fill us up. Those are attachments that end up tangling us in very difficult ways. And attachments come with expectations, and expectations or desires or wants, however you want to think of it, or needs, always bring sorrow. If you look at the things that make you sad, you will if you trace it back like a ball of twine back to the beginning, it's almost always an expectation or a hope you had. I hoped this one was going to do this. I hoped this one was going to do that, or I expected them to do that, and they didn't do it. And so now I'm sad. And then the other one sees my sorrow, and now they're upset, and we're back in this problem. So back to Mickey's question, so how do we exit this? So at this time, the main effort we're making on our spiritual path, you can call it, I'm going to call it purification, but there's a lot of things to call it: fulfillment, completion, awakening, realization. There's hundreds of terms for what we're looking for, but what we're looking for is we want to return to what we originally were. Now, how do I know that we were originally this way? I mean, how can I sit here and insist to you that you were originally peaceful? You could say to me, well, I was never peaceful. You don't know that I was peaceful. But see, what you cannot want something you've never had. You can't want to have an apple pie if you've never had an apple pie. I remember I live in a community where everybody gets very excited about mangoes. It's a major love affair. I'd never had a mango. So every time they showed up with a basket of them and they would walk around the room and people would take them and eat them. And I'd say, no, no thanks. I don't really need a mango. And they'd look at me like I'd lost my mind. Well, I'd never had a mango, so I didn't really have any desire for a mango. But see, once you've had something wonderful, you want that thing again. So on your spiritual path, you're looking to return to that state in which you were completely pure, completely peaceful, completely loving, completely joyful and powerful. A place you already know. You've forgotten it, and looking around at the world, you're not sure where it would possibly come from. But you do have a longing. That's what we long for. We want that. We long for that state. So there's only one way to achieve that. And it's not through reading, although I like to read spiritual books a lot. You probably do too, and there's no harm in reading them. And it's not through guided meditations, although I like them a lot, and you probably do too. There's no harm in listening to them. But the only way for the soul to return to its original state is to connect to the source energy of the universe, of life, the source of life, which has the thousands of names for this one. The source, or the one, or God, or there's hundreds of names. Every religion has many names, but it's the source of life, this one. This is an incognito point of light consciousness that's beyond this world, but has complete connection with this world. It's the true spiritual parent of the soul, and it's the source of everything the soul wants. It's your closest relationship, your oldest relationship. Every soul somewhere inside remembers this connection. Even if in this life you were raised to be an atheist and you have no connection with religion of any sort, this really isn't about religion. Religion has to do with churches and organizations, right? This isn't about Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism or any of the isms. It's not about any ism. This is the soul, this consciousness that you are inside, and the Supreme Soul, this source energy. Now, that presence holds all of those subtle capacities that I was just talking with you about. So it is ultimate peace, an ocean of peace, a total, you might call a reservoir of peace. It is an outpouring of love. I mean, I've talked to people sometimes who had experiences, and really different people, different paths, who've had an experience of the divine or the one or Supreme Soul, God, whatever. And their descriptions are often pretty similar. I talked to a financial advisor who's got an office across from Penn Station. And he described a time he was walking down the street. He'd been meditating. He'd been thinking about these spiritual matters. And suddenly he felt this flow of lightness and kind of like he was lifted up somehow. And he said he couldn't explain why it came, but it stayed with him for about 3 days. And then he said, I had the thought, oh no, what if this goes away? And it was gone. And he said, I didn't know why it came, and I didn't know how to get it back. had talked to someone else who came where I live at Peace Village in the Catskills after the death of her husband. And I was talking with her about this presence, about God, and she said, "Oh, I know all about it." She said, "There was a time in my life that was a very hard time." She said, "I was raised Roman Catholic. I was sitting in the church. I lit one of those red candles. I was on my knees. I was struggling. It was a terrible time in my life. And I suddenly felt this outpouring of love." And she said, "I couldn't explain it. I just took it in. Everything cleared and I just floated out of the church." She said, "It's never happened since." So, and I've heard from others. So, there's these times when for reasons you do not understand, this presence comes. But that's a problem, right? If you've got to wait around for it to accidentally show up, that's not enough. You can't count on that, right? You can't just figure, well, one of these days maybe that'll happen while I'm walking down the street. So what you're doing when you're cultivating a meditation practice is you're learning how you, the soul, cultivate that connection. Now, most of us, if we were raised in a religion, which many of us probably were, whatever it was, we were probably taught some practice that had to do with being our physical selves and calling out to God. So I, Judy, am calling out to you, God. Things aren't going well here. Not much money in the bank. I really could use some help, right? Kind of sending up my message. And what happens in that is that you do feel better, and sometimes you do get some fortune from that, but you don't get what I'm talking about, which is the transformation of the self, this filling of the self in ways that allow you to change these karmic patterns. So the difference is when you're practicing Raja Yoga, which is what the Manhattan Center teaches, and the various things that Shweta talked about at the beginning, the very first move is from thinking of yourself as a body, a person, to thinking of yourself as a soul in a body. This eternal part of you that's in this body, looking out through these eyes, listening through these ears, navigating this world through this body and with these relationships, etc. So the eternal part of you is in this perishable part of you. When you're practicing Raja Yoga, that's the first thing you do. It's not I, Mickey, or I, Sony, or I, Vimal, or I, Perry, calling out to God. It's I, the soul. I, the being of light. And you actually don't even need to call out, because when you make that shift, you're now moving into the wavelength of the spiritual source of divinity, it's often called, right? This kind of current of light and power. So when you're in a bodily consciousness, you're calling out to that. But when you're in the soul consciousness, you turn your attention to that and the link is made. And at first you have to go a little bit on faith, right? Because I'm describing something to you that if you haven't had the experience, you have to trust me. But it's not hard. We're not talking about some mysterious, some magical thing here. We're talking about the ability to shift your consciousness from I'm this personality to I'm the soul. And as the being, the eternal being, as the soul, then you make that connection. And as you make that connection, what happens is you feel the current of donation. One name for that source is the benefactor, because that source doesn't take anything. That source is only flowing. So peace flows, love flows, power flows, joy flows. And so when you read descriptions of people who've had that experience, it's always kind of a current or a waterfall or an incoming of some sort. But you want to move beyond the occasional surprise to being able to have it be a practice. You know, there probably is nothing more important that you could address in your life than this. Honestly. I mean, it's like going back for a degree, I suppose. Only this time you're going back for the ultimate degree that's going to shift you permanently. When you have this connection, because the source is only pure, absolute purity, pure peace, pure love, pure joy, needs nothing, wants nothing, takes nothing, right? This is this benefactor, benevolent flowing of these qualities. The soul is like a thirsty person on the desert. As soon as this connection is made, the soul takes all this in, and immediately you begin to change. And I can tell you that if you pick up this and you make it a daily practice, you're different within a week or two. And by different, I mean you have reservoirs of peace, for example, or patience that you didn't have before, without working at it. You just notice that there is an easiness inside of you that's allowing you to be really patient, even when the one in front of you is behaving very badly, as usual. But this time you're not triggered, right? You have this reservoir of peace. You have this reservoir of love. Now, we tend to love lovable things, right? We love cat videos. We love cute babies. we love those dogs and elephant videos. We love all the things that are cute. It's hard to love angry people, upset people. We have trouble, right? It's hard to love some of these aggressors in the world. But when you tap into this source, this benevolent one, that love doesn't go to those that are lovable. It goes everywhere. See, if your children or grandchildren are playing in a playground and you walk over to the fence, who does your love go to? Let's say there's 12 people on the playground. Your love goes to the two little ones you know, right? Those are mine, and also your love goes there. But actually, when you are completely loving, your love goes to every little soul on that playground. Your love goes to everybody on the street. In fact, your love it goes to those who you can't even see, you're not in touch with, etc. So, and then the joy is a natural outcome of that. Now, this is also true, just as an aside, this is also true of prosperity. Some people have a lot of trouble with money. They find themselves feeling constantly out of money. And we're not talking about money tonight, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. We can talk about money another night. But it's the same, actually. Spiritual wealth is the same as physical wealth. There's actually not a difference. Because once you've tapped into this stream that I'm describing to you, it creates opportunity and wealth and benevolence all around it. So what you're doing with your spiritual practice is you're aligning yourself in such a way that you tap into that current and you let it lift you up. And as you're doing that, you become without needs, I would say. You become full, you become complete. And then the more full you are, the more complete you are, the more you give from what you've accumulated. So you don't enter a relationship wanting. You don't enter saying, you know, I really need someone to make me peaceful. I need someone to quiet me down. I need someone who's going to really hold on to me and never leave. You enter the relationship in a state of giving because you're so full, right? You've become full of peace. You've become full of love. You've become full of joy. So you're giving from overflow. That allows for you to be detached because you're not wanting anything from the relationship. You're not looking for anything from that, right? You're connecting in order to, you donate to them. There's joy in the connection, but you're not looking for anything, even gratitude, even thanks. You're just engaging and sharing what you have. Now, let me just pause and ask, is there anything about this you want to double click on or talk about a little more?
Sister Judy, there is a question in a chat window sometime back when you were talking about karmic account, karmic bondages. And I think it's very practical. Maybe everyone get benefit out of it. So the question is, what about physical abuse? We may be able to still love someone even in spite of their behavior, but it doesn't mean we need to stick around.
That's right. So loving someone doesn't mean that you have to be in the house with them or that you have to accept anything that would compromise you in any way or harm you in any way. But sometimes when we leave physically, we leave with our love as well, right? And I'm talking here about spiritual love, right? Love for the soul. So, yeah, if someone's treating you badly, do not stick around. This doesn't mean you become a doormat, but you're not taking anything from that one. So, in other words, in leaving, you're detaching yourself. So you're not holding on to that one to get anything or give anything other than just pure love. But you don't ever stay around in a way that harms you. But we love a lot of things that we don't live with, right? Or don't even see. We can have love for the people in Ukraine. We can have love for the people in anywhere, right? I mean, it's not connected with who we are living with. So no, I wouldn't stick around. Okay, and I'll go back to karmic account and karmic bondage, Vimal. But no, just to finish this up on physical abuse, as you're becoming more spiritually loving, so on the spiritual path, you're making this effort to become more full, more complete with love and peace and all of it, right? Happiness, compassion, joy, kindness, all of it, which happens when the soul connects to the source. That naturally happens. You don't have to work at it. When you make that connection, you just sit and absorb that. It's not a thinking thing. It's not a studying thing. You do study spiritually, you learn about stuff. But when you're sitting and making that connection, you're not working at it. You're just connecting and taking those qualities, that love, that peace, that uplift, and that changes you. You become different. You become different very quickly, actually, and you become more powerful. What we're talking about is building spiritual capacity, building the capacity to be with different kinds of people, building the capacity to be with bosses that are anxious and to be with landlords that are, ignoring you, and to be in all the circumstances of the world right now that we're all dealing with, right? There's so few places where everybody's behaving the way we'd like them to. So either we're upset all the time, or we learn how to be in those circumstances and not expect that the circumstances are going to make us okay. We're making ourselves okay, and then we're donating to the people and the circumstances, right? Making sense? And I don't want to make it sound in order to do what I'm talking about, you need not only a practice, you need a daily practice. You need a daily practice. So let's take a couple of the questions.
Sister Judy,
Yeah.
could you expand on what you mean when you say you're able to get power? Because I would assume that in a normal regular situation, power means I can fight back, and I can be abrasive, aggressive, and show who's who and what's what, and be vengeful, and seek justice, if you will. So, what kind of power? What do you mean by power?
Prabha. Might be better to call it spiritual capacity. If power is loaded like that for you, let's call it capacity. So spiritual capacity means that that I have a large measure of, well, for one thing, it has to do with my inner awareness. It kind of, there's a kind of trajectory. So first it alters my inner awareness. So my awareness of who I am, right? I'm this being inside. So I'm sustaining that awareness. Okay, I've got this physical identity, but I'm this eternal being with these qualities. It affects my vision. It affects my attitude. First my attitude, then my vision. Because if I am this eternal being and I have this capacity for patience, then I look at the situation and I say, well, okay, this landlord is really not at his best here, but you know what, I have to live here, and let me find a way to work with this person. Let me figure this out. My vision for him is merciful, right? I'm not feeling overwhelmed by him, etc. I'm just merciful. It's too bad he's like this. It's pretty miserable, but let me send the guy a little bit of understanding. And then whatever I say, whatever I do, then it demonstrates that understanding. Now, what I'm doing when I do that, Prabha, is I am setting in motion a different karmic relationship with him. If I respond to him and my awareness is that I'm this person and he's overriding me and I'm stuck in this apartment and he's charging me too much anyway, and my attitude is hostile and my vision of him is, that the guy is a snake, then I open my mouth, I say something mean-spirited, and now he and I are in a big karmic dance, and I'm in a lot of sorrow about it. So spiritual capacity allows me to be more graceful in my timing. It allows me to be more patient in what's going on. I can see what's going on for the other one, and I'm not reactive. Most people are just bang. The minute something happens, they instantly react, and now, I've said something that I regret, etc. So it's that kind of capacity that we're talking about. As far as how do we connect with the source? Well, this is the whole point of Raja Yoga. So I would say go to Shweta's, whatever she offered you at the beginning. We have lots of places that offer a way in that door. I find it's non-denominational. There are Jews, Christians, Hindus, everybody comes through the door because it addresses something more basic than religion. It really helps you to shift into this consciousness of yourself as this inner being, which is the key, really. I mean, there's a lot of pieces to it, but that's actually the key. Once you're able to connect with yourself in that way, kind of detach from this name, role, etc. I'm a mom, I'm a policeman, I'm a this, I'm a that, and you're in this other state. Now a lot of things become possible that weren't before. I mean, I don't have time to walk you through it now, but they can. The Manhattan Center can certainly do that. And if we get a little time at the end, we'll do a little bit on that. And seamless, yeah, it's more seamless if we are not attached. Our attachments to things, to people, to property, to our ways of doing things compromise that connection. So the more detached we are, the cleaner that connection is. How do we separate ego from true love? Well, I would say with ego, we are more aware of sort of who we are, what we're giving, what we're getting. With true love, we're in a state of what I would say.
Unconditional?
I'm sorry? Say it again.
Unconditional.
Unconditional, yeah. Some people, everyone's got a different way in the door, so I don't want to narrow it for anybody. So, for example, when you're talking about true love, and let's take the romance out of it for a minute. Let's just talk about love of a brother or a sister or friend. You're talking about real brotherhood in the deepest sense of brotherhood. This one is my brother on the path of life. I have love for this one, and we're companions, and I don't want anything. I don't want you to see me in a certain way. I don't want you to give me anything. I am full, I'm giving to you from that. And if I'm lucky, you are also full, you're giving to me from that. And we're in a state of brotherhood. So ego really exits in a scene like that. It's not about who we are as a personality or who we are in the role, or all of that kind of thing goes away. And we're really just, the best way for me to explain it is that the fuller we are, the more necessarily we will give, right? If I'm full of love, then everyone who comes in front of me will feel loved. They won't be able to help it. Why? Because souls are vibrational. So the vibrational field that's going to come off of me is going to be loving. I mean, think of someone who loved you very much in the cleanest way you can imagine. Your grandmother, your first grade teacher, somebody. And think how you felt when you walked into their presence. What happened for you when they looked at you with that vision of how beautiful you are and their love for you? So that's, once you are in that state, once you are filled with love, everyone who comes in front of you gets that vibration. And I'll tell you, you become like a magnet. I mean, if you're in an office, you find people just hanging around your little cubicle. They don't want anything. They just want to pick up some of what you have. If you're a nurse on the floor, if you're whatever, people just gravitate because they're drinking in what you're offering. And so the pure desire that we have then is to become so loving that we don't want anything from anyone. We're not trying to get anything from anyone. We don't care if they thank us or not. We don't care if they reciprocate or not. It's just a natural flow of the state we're in. And that is why you're on the spiritual path. That's what your aim is. It's not to relax, although it's good if you relax. It's not to go to sleep, although it's fine if you sleep well. But your aspiration, at least if you're studying Raj Yoga, your aspiration is to transform the self. So you become completely imperturbable, really, really, truly loving, and really joyful. And then that's all you share with everybody. And your relationships simplify, all those karmic tangles drop away, and things become easy. Really, really easy. They become a pleasure. So, thank you, Marge. Do you want to do just a couple minutes together? We don't really have much time. I don't know if we got through the things you care about, but let's just take a few minutes together. Is that all right for you? We'll just close with a little short, very short meditation. So, first thing to do is sit up straight. Your feet are either on the floor or they're folded under you, one or the other. And you are sitting with your neck over your spine. You can have your eyes open or closed, whichever works best for you. And take a couple of deep breaths. And with each breath, just let out any worry, concern, stiffness, tightness, anything like that. and turn your attention inside. Turn your attention inside to the beautiful space of memories, thoughts, feelings. And have the awareness that you, the soul, are sitting very lightly behind the eyes. Little point of light emanating this beautiful energy of the soul. And because the mind doesn't like to be empty, give the mind one thought. And tonight, maybe you give the mind the thought of love. And the mind becomes quiet with the thought of love. And the mind becomes still and silent. And have the awareness, I am love. And allow that awareness to move into your heart, into every cell in your body. I am love. Let your breath be filled with that awareness. And then become aware that that field of love that you're creating inside, those currents of love naturally flow out from you, like the breeze blowing across the land. And they touch everyone you know, everyone you don't know, lighting up the space. Around you. And then just allow your attention to go up like a beam of light, knowing that the source of all life, the source of love, your spiritual parent, is really just a thought away, as close as your next breath. And it's the right of every soul to have this close connection with that one. So having received this love and this sweetness, bring your attention back into the body, into the place behind the eyes, and know that you can do this any moment in your day, in your night, in your life. Fill yourself with this kind of love and bring yourself infinite happiness and freedom. Om Shanti.